You're listening to the J.D. Rucker Show. Let's begin. I said it, I don't know, probably 5 dozen times, and I'll say it again another 1 or 2 dozen times between now and the election. Stop focusing on the polls. Okay, the polls are used against us every time. Every time. The polls are always going to be used against patriots, conservatives, Republicans, whatever you want to label yourself as. The polls are used to manipulate you. And yes, every single poll is to some extent manipulated. Some are more manipulated than others. They are narrative generators or reinforcers in certain cases. They are designed to elicit a response, and that's it. And I've explained before, I'll give you the brief overview of how polls actually work in America. If you, let's say, for easy math, we'll say there's 1,000, they're going to do a poll that has 1,000 respondents, right? They know what they want the target to be. They know what they want the numbers to say ahead of time. And they go and they do their regular poll to 800 people, we'll say. And they realize, okay, so our narrative, we want Democrats to be up, by an extra 2 or 3 points. So let's call on, with the last 200, let's contact the people they know are going to have a higher chance of responding to the poll in a positive manner for Democrats. And it goes vice versa. Keep in mind, I want to be clear about this. People saying, they stack the polls every time for Democrats. Yes, a lot. Not every, maybe 80%, 90%. It's about the narrative. For example, 2022, one can argue that only 2 things happened in 2022, the midterm elections. And the third thing that could have possibly happened, the one that the vast majority in conservative media say did happen, it didn't happen. It's a lie. And this is where I use that to determine whether somebody was spot on, which very few were. Somebody was controlled opposition, which it seemed like a handful were, and then most of them were just wrong. Just got it wrong that time. Okay, and I'm not calling out names, not today. I'm going to be throwing enough bombs today. Might as well not throw it at my cronies in conservative media. But the 2 possibilities are this: either the were wrong, or they were manipulated. And you might say, what's the distinction? Well, if they're wrong, then you would see some get them right. I mean, they can't all universally be wrong, except in 2022, leading up to the midterm election. Every poll was saying it's going to be a red tsunami. It's going to be a massive blowout on behalf of the Republicans, and that didn't happen. It didn't happen. So then we have to fall back on, if 20% of the polls got it right, fine. Then I'll say maybe it was just a mistake. But none of them got it right. All of them were saying that it was going to be a massive tsunami, and they all got that allegedly wrong. I would say that they got it right because they were just trying. For the first time that I can recall, at least in recent history, they used the polls to favor Republicans more so than Democrats. In other words, they were trying to build up complacency, a sense of security. We got this in the bag. Even CNN, I remember the headlines. Even CNN is saying it's going to be a red tsunami. Everybody's saying that. Okay, well, if it's a red tsunami, it's a midterm election. We're not even voting for the president this year. Do I really want to go out there? Weather's not nice. I should be golfing. Something else. Because they thought that the red tsunami was a foregone conclusion. If CNN says it's going to happen, and they are so reluctant about helping Republicans. Well, anyway, so that's one variation of how polls are manipulated. You can go back to 2016. I would argue that the polls were manipulated in a way that they knew that crooked Hillary was not doing very well. But they tried to bolster confidence. They tried to get people to, don't worry, you can do this. We just need you to vote. It's a close race, but chances are 80% he's going to win, but there's still a chance Trump could win. So you better get out there and vote, you Democrats. And conversely, hey, Republicans, you got like a 20% chance of winning. You might as well not even waste your time. Right? Those are the narratives that they put out there. That's why they in that particular election, they had Hillary inflated and they had Trump deflated. Fast forward to 2020. Similar situation, but for different reasons. I think that there was no chance. They weren't even trying to get Joe to actually win. They were just manipulating the polls so that they could suspend disbelief when they stole the 2020 election. That's it. Okay? I think the real polls, the real vote counts, the real legitimate vote counts, not the ballot counts, not the fakes, not the 3 a.m. ballot drops suspiciously in only certain cities, certain areas where where it would make a difference. You didn't see 3 a.m. ballot drops in California. You saw them in Atlanta, Detroit, Pennsylvania, that whole debacle for 2 weeks. It only happened in swing states. Why is that? Because they were cheating. Period. Sorry. Yeah. Don't even try. Don't even try to convince me otherwise. Okay. But they had to suspend disbelief. Okay. If they show the real polls and it's like, oh my gosh, Joe Biden is down by 14 points, it looks as if his staying in the basement campaign isn't really endearing himself to anybody. It seems as if his rallies, which are just people stuck in cars and honking. There's about 14 cars in the parking lot. Parking lot's mostly empty, and they all have their masks on in their cars honking. And Joe and Kamala have their masks on. It was the dumbest thing. They didn't get 81 million votes. There's zero chance. You will not be able to convince me, or anybody with a brain for that matter, you will not be able to convince me that racist Joe Biden got more black votes than Barack Obama. Sorry, that didn't happen, folks. Put that on the list of things that definitely, absolutely, positively did not happen. There you go. Take that one to the bank. So I don't want to hear about the polls. Whatever they might say, Trump's up, Trump's down, Kamala's up, Kamala's down. 83% of respondents think the economy is important. I don't care what the poll says. I don't want to hear about them. And I know, look, they make news. They get clicks. I know why people talk about them. We have to post them because there are going to be certain polls that are newsworthy. What I'm sick of is seeing so many stories every day about it. It seems like that's the focus of every conservative site out there. It's like, oh, a new poll came out. What's our spin? And same thing. It's not just conservative sites. It's also left-leaning sites. They do the same thing. It's all just a big scam, a big con, if you will. Quick shout out to one of my, I wouldn't say newer sponsors. I've actually been working with them for a long time, but they're newer in that I haven't talked about them lately until I think I talked about them one time in the last year or so. But it's becoming more and more evident that with everything, all the craziness that's happening out there, and there is a lot of craziness, that we can and should start preparing ourselves for whatever is to come. And one of the things I think a lot of people forget, that, oh yeah, we'll get the food, we'll pull money out of the bank, we'll get solar generator things. Great. What about what if you can't get to the hospital? What if there's an emergency? What if you're out on, traveling and a roaming band of criminals, marauders, they attack your car and you're barely able to escape with your life, and you got, med kits. Let me just cut to the chase. Get a med kit. Okay. You can get a med kit. I use the smaller ones. I use the cheaper ones. I'll admit it. I'm cheap. Okay. I've got these ones. They range. The smaller one is $75. The bigger one is $120. But between the two, I've got one in my house and one in each of my vehicles. Okay. And they're small and they're good. They're not great. I couldn't perform open heart surgery with them, and even if I had a kit that I could use to perform open heart surgery, I probably wouldn't be able to do a very good job at it because I'm not a doctor. But I do know that if there's blood, I need to probably wrap that blood and stop the bleeding. And if I need this or that, anyway, go to jdrucker.com/sidekick, jdrucker.com/sidekick. That's the one that I use. That's one I bought 3 of them, one pro and two standards. But they have bigger ones too. You can get $1,000 med kits if you're a high roller. You want the walking, the mobile hospital that you throw on your back. Great. Get that. I take the little ones, but get whatever you want. jdrucker.com/sidekick. So, polls, enough with the sidekicks. Let's talk about strategies. One of the things that, I've said it before, as far as the Trump campaign, the direct campaign, Trump himself, it's the economy and the border crisis. The economy and the border crisis. And they link together so perfectly. That's it. That's all he needs to talk about. That's all that his campaign needs to talk about. But what about us? What about you, me, campaign surrogates, RFK Jr. separate because he's talking about making America healthy again. But what about, what can, I don't know, Vivek Ramaswamy, what can he talk about? Or Megyn Kelly or whoever, any of these people, whether they're in media or not, or you, again, or it could just be you and me just talking to our friends, relatives. Hear a lot about the economy. I don't want to talk about the economy. Obviously, Trump would be better for the economy, but there's other issues. other issues to talk about. And like the abortion issue. The abortion issue is one that I just don't know if I really want to elect a guy that's going to ban abortions across the nation. It's like, what? No, that's not what Trump wants. Neither Trump nor J.D. Vance have expressed any desire to do that. As a matter of fact, they've both come out adamantly opposed to any federal action whatsoever when it comes to abortion. Leave it to the states. Okay? Just leave it to the states. That's their stance. And again, that's not my stance. If I were president, I would sign an abortion ban, 100%, just abolish abortion altogether. I'm one of those weird extremists. But they keep saying, but Trump wants to ban it. No, he doesn't. I wish he did, but he doesn't. And I guess from an electoral perspective, okay, from a campaign perspective, it's better off that he doesn't, right? It's just not a hill that I'm going to die on. I disagree with him, but it's not going to prevent me from voting for him. It's like, oh my gosh, he's not purely pro-life. Therefore, I guess I'm going to have to vote for Kamala. Stop it, you guys. Anyway, so yeah, the abortion issue. We need to educate people about it. It's a tool for the Democrats. Number one, it's a tool, obviously, to attack Trump. Just as Project 2025, which he's never even read. It's like, oh, but Project 2025 says that he wants to take the harshest ban that's pushable by whatever he can get past. If they want to ban it at 6 weeks, 20 weeks, whatever, then he's going to sign it. It's like, no, he's not. That's Project 2025. I'm sorry, Mr. Friend or relative or coworker or whoever. You obviously you're watching CNN or MSNBC or CBS or whatever. Yeah, but Trump has nothing to do with Project 2025. He's disavowed it multiple times. They keep hammering it on us, not because they actually believe that he has anything to do with it or that he would truly use it as a roadmap. He's got Agenda 47. That's his actual roadmap. But Project 2025, a little embarrassed for you, but have you been watching too much corporate media? Have you been listening to the Democrats? Because it's a bald-faced lie. Let me show you. Here's Trump aggressively disavowing Project 2025, declaring that he has never read not a single one of the 900 pages of this document that was put together by a think tank. They say, oh, it was put together by the Trump campaign. No, they took former Trump administrators, put them together with non-Trump administrators or think tank people. They're like, hey, this is what we can do for any random generic Republican president. This is what we would like to see from them. I mean, anybody can make it. Anybody could do this, and others on the left have. You don't see anybody saying, "Oh, Kamala Harris is going to adopt the Planned Parenthood manifesto, which says that we should have abortions all the way up to the age of 4." That's not true, by the way, but at least I hope not. It's not true yet. Maybe someday it will be. Child sacrifices are better in that younger age, but not necessarily. I don't know enough about child sacrifices to be able to speak intelligently about it. But I do know this. We got to educate people about Trump's actual stance about abortion. Whether you agree with it or not, the truth needs to come out. His truth. The truth of what he actually would do. And if a 6-week abortion ban were put on his desk, I would say with a 97% certainty that he would veto it. Okay? He doesn't want that. I wish he did. I wish he'd want a total ban. But he doesn't. He wants restrictions, but he wants them at the state level. And if a state doesn't want to do restrictions, fine. Let them do what they do. This is the Federalist stance. This is the first time, by the way, that I've ever heard Trump go full Federalist on this. And he did, and it's great. I love it. Okay? I mean, is that better than a ban? A federal ban? No, not in my books. But for a majority of Americans, it is better. It really is. And so, look, we'll take it. But then you might say, well, then why does they keep hammering? Why does Kamala keep saying that? It's because she wants to use fear. But it's not about abortion. She doesn't. A lot of people say, oh my gosh, Kamala Harris she just wants to murder as many babies as possible. I've heard that argument before. That may actually be true, but it's definitely not her primary motivator. Her primary motivator in all of this stuff, and not just her, but really it's her campaign and her handlers that are telling her this. What they really want to do is use abortion as an excuse to get rid of the filibuster. If they can get rid of the filibuster and maintain permanent Democrat rule through the invasion at the border that they're currently in the process of promoting, If they can establish permanent Democrat rule and then get rid of the filibuster, we're toast. Okay, period. We're toast. And I would argue, by the way, that if you did the same thing and had permanent Republican rule and still got rid of the filibuster as well, we'd still be toast. Not as quickly and from a different angle, but you do need a certain degree of accountability. I'm not saying that, we need to elect Democrats every now and then. I'm not saying that. But the threat of if you gave Republicans, and let's face it, the majority in D.C. as well as state legislators are rhinos. Okay, they're not true constitutional conservatives. Okay, they're rhinos. So if you gave them no accountability, in other words, they know they're going to win no matter what. They know they have complete control. They would tank the country just like the Democrats would. It would just take a little bit. So getting rid of the filibuster in any form or fashion, even if it were for the Republicans. Okay, even if you had a 55-45 Republican majority in the Senate, control the House and the White House, I still would not support getting rid of the filibuster. It's just not good politics at all. And I am not alone. According to an article over at Daily Wire, this is from Leif Lemehieu. What a great name. Leif Lemehieu. I don't know who that is, but he or she, I think it's a he, says Manchin says we won't endorse, he won't, we won't, he's using the royal we. Manchin says he won't endorse Kamala after she calls for end of filibuster. Good on him. And of course, for those who don't know, technically Manchin is an independent. Okay, he's not running anymore. He's trying to get out of politics. Probably will run again sometime in the future, I would imagine, because he seems to like it. But he's a Democrat. He's just he's a very moderate Democrat, and he's in a very conservative state in West Virginia. So it behooves him to say stuff like this, whether he's going to be running or not. Senator Joe Manchin said Tuesday that he would not endorse Vice President Kamala Harris for president because of her call to end the filibuster in order to pass federal law creating a right to an abortion. Manchin, who became an independent in May after 14 years as a Democrat senator, told CNN that getting rid of the filibuster, which requires 60 votes to advance most legislation, would lead to chaos in the Senate and tear the country apart. And he's absolutely right. Shame on her, he said, he'll be stepping down after this term. So January, that's it for Manchin until we see whatever his next chapter is. She knows the filibuster is the holy grail of democracy. It's the only thing that keeps us talking and working together. That's so important. That's so right. If she gets rid of that, then this the House on steroids. And what he's referring to is in the House, you just need, one vote. You just need one vote. That's it. Okay? You need one vote over a one vote majority, and that's it. In the Senate, with the filibuster on any budgetary concerns, you also only need a majority, right? That's understandable because, again, if not, then we would literally never pass anything. Oh, the only way that we could pass anything is if we passed even larger budgets than we do today, because it's like, okay, well, we got to stuff everything in to make everybody happy. No. So I'm in agreement with that. But as far as for standard legislation, 60 votes. Otherwise, the opposition can filibuster you and prevent the vote from technically ever happening. If it gets filibustered, it's not that the vote wasn't voted down. It was that the vote doesn't actually technically occur. It will another day. He continued, that ain't going to happen. I think that basically can destroy our country, and my country is more important to me than any person or anyone's ideology. I think it's the most horrible thing. Harris made the comments about getting rid of the filibuster in an interview with Wisconsin Public Radio on Tuesday, and this is what she said. I think we should eliminate the filibuster for Roe, and that's a lie. It's not for Roe. It's for control, but whatever. And get us to the point which would be what we need to actually put back in law the protections for reproductive freedom and for the ability of every person and every woman to make decisions about their own body and not have the government tell them what to do. Sorry, that was supposed to sound like Kamala. It sounded. Other Democrats have expressed support for Harris's proposal to do away with the filibuster for a vote on abortion. I am confident. This is from Patty Murray, a radical Democrat out of Washington. I am confident that many of our colleagues will do it exactly as Vice President Harris said, which is to make sure we restore the rights of Roe to every woman in this country. Wasn't it? I got to stop right there, because wasn't it just, I don't know, like a few months ago where you couldn't say every woman, because they couldn't tell you what a woman was, right? I mean, what is a woman? I'm not a scientist. I'm not a biologist. How can I possibly know what a woman is? Now all of a sudden they're out there saying, do it for the women, because women have to have abortions, all of them. Abort all the babies. That's what we want. No, don't say that out loud, Kamala. No, I mean rights. We want it for the rights, and it's totally just about Roe v. Wade, and definitely not about maintaining permanent control over the government, so the Democrat Party and Kamala Harris, under the tutelage of the the globalist elite cabal and the deep state, can take America down 17 notches to the point to where we're essentially, it's not that we're a third world country, it's that we wouldn't even be a country at all. Yeah, that sounds great. That sounds wonderful. These people. Do I have time? Let's take a short break, and then when we get back, I want to finish this segment off with David Strom, one of my rising star in my mind in conservative media. So stay tuned. For at least the last, 2 years. Let's see, it might have been as early as 2021, but the very least in 2022, we started talking about and noticing and talking about all of the crazy things that were happening with this food supply. I'd be like, hey, did you notice there's been like a sharp increase in food production plants that are just sort of burning up, it's getting sabotaged, blowing up in some cases? And what about all the chickens that are getting culled? And what about all the cows that are mysteriously dying? It's like somebody's attacking your food. I mean, that seemed to be the case, and it has continued to be the case for a long time. This is one of the reasons that the food prices have gone up so much higher, so much faster than other things. Yes, we're experiencing mega inflation, but food is getting it hit hard. It's one of the reasons that we even launched my company in the first place, and we were very happy to have done that. But everything happened, like everything, you can only fight off the inevitable for so long, and so we are in the very, very near future, not sure what day or anything like that, but very soon, we are going to have to raise our prices. And so as a result of this, and I actually have a meeting, I'm not going to say when, but I have a meeting to discuss all of this and how much we're going to raise prices and all that stuff. But in the meantime, as owner of the company, I can still offer what I believe to be a good, awesome deal. So go to preparewithbeef.com. And once you're there, just use promo code JDR. Use promo code JDR to get the maximum discount. As of right now, as I'm recording to this episode, we are at 30%, and we're doing that ahead of the anticipated price hike. So do yourself a favor, do your family a favor, do everybody a favor, and go there now and use promo code JDR. All right, we'll get back to the filibuster, but I want to clear something up real quick about abortion. There's this perception, and it's a popular perception, especially in conservative media, that Kamala Harris wants to kill as many babies as possible. Now, to some, this is just a talking point because people don't really feel that way, right? Even the pro-choice, pro-abortion people, they don't really want to kill as many babies as possible, right? Except they do. They being, and Kamala Harris is one of their instruments. Do I think that she personally wants to? I don't think she cares. Okay. I really don't think that she has any perspectives, any opinions of her own at all. Like literally zero. Other than that she wants to be president of the United States. That's it. She is driven by this ambition, this goal, this desire, this whatever. And she's used that her entire career to move up in various forms and fashion, styles, and actions that she's taken. She will do anything to get ahead. And once she is president, if she were to win, God forbid that happens. But if she were to be installed as president of the United States, well, guess what? That probably won't even be enough either. She'll probably try to become something that she perceives to be. She'll want to be the supreme leader of the World Health Organization once the pandemic treaty passes and sovereignty is erased, or she'll want to be the UN Secretary General under UN 2.0 and basically be Queen Kamala. I don't know. All she is ambition. She doesn't have ambition. She is ambition. She's ambition personified. And that makes her dangerous as a tool for the globalist elite cabal. And the globalist elite cabal, they do want to murder as many babies as possible. It comes down to child sacrifice. Folks, it's funny. I even just told somebody yesterday, never use the word folks. It's demeaning. And there I go. I'm not trying to demean you, by the way. I get frustrated because I know that when I'm diving into some of the more conspiratorial aspects of this world, especially when it comes to Bible prophecy or crazy conspiracy theories, I know that a lot of you kind of tune me out, and I get it. I probably would too if I didn't know what I know. There might have been a time, a decade or two ago, where maybe I would have tuned that stuff out because I didn't want to hear it either. But it's real. It's true. Abortion is about child sacrifice. It's part of the paganization of the world, in particular of the United States of America. So when journalists say she wants to kill as many babies as possible, it's because they told her, they being her handlers, her whatever, they told her that that's the fastest path for her to get to whatever it is that she wants. In this case, she wants to be president of the United States. All right, let's finish this segment up with the filibuster and Kamala's desire to kill babies. According to, again, a rising star in my mind, he's probably been around for a while. I need to contact him and interview him or something. Over at Hot Air, David Strom, MSM is not telling you the whole story about Kamala's filibuster boast. It was shocking. Breaking news that Kamala Harris favors eliminating the Senate filibuster so that Roe v. Wade's provisions could be put into federal law. Yeah, I guess. Except that Kamala Harris has been all over the place on the filibuster over the years. She's been for keeping it, for eliminating it, and probably for somebody finally explaining to her what it actually is, since she is too mentally crippled to have a clear idea. At this point, I suppose Kamala Harris taking a position on anything would be news, with the exception of statements on abortion. We already know what she thinks about that issue. The only good baby is a dead baby. There is no mountain she will not climb, no valley she will not trudge through, and no minefield she will not traverse in order to create 1 million corpses of children each year. And I know that sounds morbid, but again, he's not wrong. But as I said before, it's not because of any desire she has. It's because that's what she's being told to do and to think and to get behind. Getting rid of the filibuster is a no-brainer for her as long as we can stop Americans from having children. We need more room for illegal immigrants, right? It's not like Harris hasn't been open to upending the rules of the Senate in order to get her way. She isn't some reluctant institutionalist who is sad but determined to do what she thinks is right. She supported eliminating the filibuster for the green nude eel. Love that. Which was only about pillaging America's economy. She cares even more about killing babies than ripping America's middle class off, if not by much. Preserving norms is only important when the norms benefit your agenda, after all. This is why, of course, she has also come out strongly against ending the filibuster when it suited her needs. The only reason the filibuster has survived this long is that Republicans fear Democrats getting too much power with a majority and vice versa. Call it a balance of power. Call it a balance of terror. Perhaps 10% of politicians actually care about norms, the future beyond the next election, or the Constitution. They stick out like sore thumbs, driving everybody else in politics nuts. I don't blame Harris for pushing this as news because, well, why not? It helps her campaign. But the media, if they were actually about journalism, would have focused on her flipping and flopping what ending the filibuster would mean and actually increase the sum total of knowledge the citizens have. But of course, that is too much to ask. Harris wanted this to be breaking news, so they pretended it was. As usual, that is how it goes. As with everything these days, it is nothing but a narrative. Reality be damned. Very well stated by Mr. Fromm. If you are watching on Worldview Tube, I will bid you adieu until tomorrow. If you are watching on anywhere other than Worldview Tube, just stay right there because I'm just going to keep going. So if you're on Worldview Tube, God bless you, and I'll see you tomorrow. All right. And for everybody else, just stay there. We're just going to keep going. We're going to keep going on one of my favorite topics. I haven't talked about it nearly enough this election cycle, only because there was for those who don't know, back in 2021, when I was talking about voter fraud very heavily, I became one of the very first people, long before people like Stu Peters or anybody else got banned on Spotify. I was that guy. I was one of the first ones that, like, hey, I interviewed like Ivan Raiklan back in the day when nobody knew who Ivan. And we were talking through a lot of stuff. Did like 2 hours talking about how to correct the election, play the Pence card, and this is again before January 6th, even. So yeah, but in the early days, I got banned, and that's, by the way, I'm not saying, oh, so I don't talk about voter fraud much because well, I don't want to get banned again. I don't care. Ban me anywhere you want. Okay, I'm gonna say what I'm gonna say, and if the censors don't like it, well, then they can censor me. But I'm gonna put it out on World YouTube, on Frank's Speech, on RLM, on my own Rumble channel, on BitChute, on anywhere that'll have me, and hopefully not all of them will ban me. Now, the reason that I don't talk about it nearly as much is because we're not quite there yet. Like, it hasn't manifested, and I don't want to get people heading in the wrong direction. That's it. I mean, that's it. I've seen bits and pieces of ways that voter fraud is already being employed. I'm not sure if they're going to try to squeeze out something in October. I don't know if they're going to, how they're going. I mean, well, we know how they're going to use the illegal aliens. Hey, yeah, go register, bring it to us. We'll give you $50, $100. We won't deport you, whatever. We know there's some deal being struck, which is why approximately 14% of the illegal aliens in the United States have registered to vote illegally, as they seem to do with every single thing. They vote illegally. They drive illegally. Oh, no, but you're allowed to drive if you're... No, you're not allowed to even drive, even in states where they give driver's license to illegal aliens, because they're illegal aliens. They shouldn't be here in the first place. And this comes from a legal alien. Okay, I was not born in the United States. I'm a legal immigrant. Technically, I was always an American citizen. I've been told by constitutional scholars, well, your father was in the U.S. military, and he was serving abroad, and then he met your mother and brought you over, but even though you were born there, you're still technically an American citizen, natural born. I said, okay, whatever. I'll keep that in mind in case I need to run for president, which I don't want to. But I will. I will do it if I have to. I mean... Thankfully, there's been people like Donald Trump who have prevented me from having to run, but who knows? Maybe 2028 is my year. God forbid. Anyway, but there is some aspects of voter fraud that are completely unambiguous. I mean, they are happening. They're in the process of happening, and so we're going to focus on those. There's this article this is over at The Federalist by M.D. Kittle. Corporate media's Kamala cover-up is next-level election interference. And that's a new word. We don't say voter fraud because it's not necessarily voter fraud. We don't necessarily say election fraud for everything because certain things technically aren't fraud. They might seem fraudulent, but interference is sort of the new buzzword for a lot of these things. Again, I'm going to call things how they are. If it's fraud, and I'm going to say it's fraud. If it's interference, we're going to call it interference. And in this case, that's what we're talking about. But let's go through this, and I'm not going to go through the whole article. It's relatively long. We're just going to go through the important parts. In the closing weeks of the 2020 presidential election, the deep state, big tech, and corporate media teamed up to kill the Hunter Biden laptop story. We all know about this. Even corporate media acknowledged it 2 or 3 years too late. Polls suggest that had the bombshell New York Post story been allowed to fully surface, the outcome of the election may well have been different. And let's be clear, it would have been. Okay, the reason that they had all the intelligence community people and corporate media and Twitter and Facebook and everybody suppressing the New York Post story was because if it had come out, they wouldn't have been able to cheat enough to get Joe Biden into office. They knew they were going to have to cheat. They just were trying to mitigate the degree of cheating that they would have to do. The more they cheat, the more they have to stick their neck out. The more they stick their neck out, the more likely it is that they'll get busted. And they know this. That's why they did it. That's why they suppressed this story. It's a combination. It's not just, we're going to take control of these voting machines, or we're going to triple count these ballots, or we're going to, it's not any one thing, folks. And there I go with folks again. It's not any one thing, my friends. It's a combination. And part of it is the interference that happens in the media. Back to the article. President Donald Trump would have won a second term, while Joe Biden and his fellow Democrats probably would have declared the election was stolen from them. And they would have gotten away with it because, they're Democrats. They can say stolen elections. We can't. We get banned on Spotify if we do. 4 years later, the accomplice media and their political co-conspirators are teaming up to cover up another huge story with the potential to affect the outcome of the election. That story? Vice President Kamala Harris is an idiot, absolutely unqualified to be the President of the United States of America. There you go. Talk about election interference, trying to put a moron in the office, somebody who didn't pass the bar exam, by the way. Or she did pass it. She failed it the first time, and somehow something happened, and she was able to pass it the second time. Not going to speculate there. Back to the article. The magic of polls. And here we get to the rub. I had already talked about this earlier today. Let's keep going with it. Most Americans should be well acquainted with Harris's embarrassing body of work by now. From her utter lack of substance, what the hell is an opportunity economy, to her bumbling and grotesquely ineffectual tenure as Biden's bogus borders are, to her routine inability to construct a coherent sentence, Kamala Harris is a walking disaster who, thanks to the Democrat Party's quiet coup, is now running for president. An unpopular a vice president as she has been, with as much political baggage she brings to the race, Trump should be winning in a landslide. He's not, at least according to the polls, orchestrated by the same accomplice media outlets that have served as an anti-Trump political action committee for the better part of the last decade. This is a quote from NBC News. Poll. Newly popular Harris builds momentum, challenging Trump for the mantle of change. What? For the mantle of change? She's literally in office right now. She has not come out and said that she's going to change anything. She's not going to do anything different other than double down and make things worse than they even are under Biden. But whatever. I guess she's just taking the mantle of change. With just 6 weeks until Election Day, Harris leads Trump by 5%, 49% to 44%, according to the poll. Harris has a 4-point edge over Trump, according to a new CBS YouGov poll, and she now finds herself up by 2% in the ever-critical battleground states. And magically, as if the last 4 years of high prices and economic uncertainty have never happened, Harris has narrowed the gap on the biggest issue facing voters. The CBS poll now finds Harris down by just 6 points among respondents who say the economy is a major factor in who they will vote for. In August, Trump dominated by 13 points. Suddenly, Harris is the economy czar. A surprise to nearly everyone. Stop me if you've seen this movie before. John McLaughlin, CEO and partner at McLaughlin & Associates, certainly has. Trump's pollster remembers what the polls looked like at the same time in 2016. By October 8th, Hillary Clinton, the disgraced former Secretary of State, was up by 7 points in some polls, McLaughlin said. He noted a mid-October CBS YouGov poll that showed Clinton was up by an insurmountable 9 points. Do you remember the Hillary lock? McLaughlin asked me Monday morning on News Radio 1040 WHO in Des Moines. I do. The lock was broken. Hillary lost. Trump won. And the experts were left to morosely wonder how they'd gotten it all so wrong. The results of Tuesday's presidential election came as a surprise to nearly everyone who'd been following the national and state election polling, which consistently projected Hillary Clinton as defeating Donald Trump, Pew Research pondered. Relying largely on opinion polls, election forecasters put Clinton's chances of winning at somewhere between 70% to as high as 99%. And pegged her as the heavy favorite to win a number of states, such as Pennsylvania and Wisconsin, that in the end were taken by Trump. 4 years later, it was the same, in some cases worse, in Trump v. Biden. The experts didn't need to do so much soul-searching then, however, and the corporate media pollsters suffered little in the way of accountability. Their guy won, or at least that's what the final ballot counts said, but Biden didn't win with anywhere near the kind of margins that the pollsters were predicting. NPR's Domenico Montanaro noted that a mere 44,000 votes in swing states Georgia, Arizona, and Wisconsin separated Biden and Trump from a tie in the Electoral College. And let's be clear, those votes came in the last minute. They were manufactured. They knew how many votes they needed to win. due to the early counts, which is why they tried so hard to have water main breaks in Fulton County, to have mysterious, Sharpie incidences and whatever, everything that they could possibly think of in Arizona. And don't get me started on Wisconsin, which was an election black hole in the hours after the election was supposedly already completed. They did it back then. They're going to continue to do it, and it's going to be more challenging for them this time, which is why, again, I reiterate what I said in the beginning of today's show. Don't listen to the polls. I don't care what they say. If they tell you Trump's winning, pretend like he's losing by 10 points. If they tell you that Trump's losing, laugh because he's not. Donald Trump currently is not losing this election. If you could take an honest election right now, today, okay? An honest one where it is just, number one, people who are legally allowed to vote in the United States of America. Number two, they only get one vote. If you were to take that and somehow magically have a true 100% free and fair election, Donald Trump wins in a landslide, not just in the Electoral College. I would argue that he would win in a landslide in the popular vote. But we will never be given that narrative, regardless of what any poll says, because they're manipulated. But again, don't take my word for it and say, oh, well, Rucker says that he's going to win. I didn't say that. I said that if you had a free and fair election, Trump wins in a landslide. I don't think we're going to have a free and fair election at all. I don't think we will ever be able to have another free and fair election. Not as long as we have open borders. Not as long as we have the deep state in control. And not as long as the globalist elite cabal keeps doing everything within their vast array of power to get people like Kamala Harris and Joe Biden installed into the Oval Office, which they desperately need. For all of their plans, all of their machinations, they need people that they can control in the White House, as well as on Capitol Hill. And I would argue maybe to some extent, with at least 3 or 4 of them, even in the Supreme Court. And don't even get me started on city and state elections. Let's take a quick break, and then I don't know if we're going to wrap up. It's beautiful having sort of an open-ended, okay, on certain shows like Worldview Tube, I've got 30 minutes. Frank Speech, I've got 1 hour. But I can always just keep going. So I might blowout sale. Man, I'm so bad at these ads. Currently, there is a blowout sale happening right now over at mypillow.com/JDR. I went and checked, and there it was, blowout sale. So I thought, you know what? Let's just promote Mike Lindell and the MyPillow product by focusing on this. And this is the standard MyPillow with promo code JDR is on sale for $14.98. Limit 10. You can only get 10 of them. I think I've got more than 10 myself. But then again, I sleep a lot. So and I sleep in multiple rooms. Who knows? Maybe you got a big family. Maybe you need 10. But you can get all 10 by going to mypillow.com/JDR. You're not just supporting MyPillow. You're not just supporting your neck. You're also supporting Mike Lindell, who is a great patriot. So check it out. jdrucker.com. No, mypillow.com/JDR. Promo code JDR. I spent the vast majority of my adult life, as well as even in my teen years when I started getting more politically savvy, more politically interested, I've always been a free market capitalist. And as a result, I've always been adamantly opposed to tariffs. Tariffs are bad. Even going into Trump's first term, I was like, oh man, I hope he doesn't follow through with his threat to install tariffs on. That's just going to be bad. And look, I'm not an economist, so I'm gonna take a mulligan on this one, because I learned, and hopefully a lot of people learned, that targeted tariffs with real reasons behind them in the modern world work. That's all there is to it. They work. It works. Trump proved that. And you can't even really deny it because of the state of the economy, the state of trade that ensued upon him using, again, targeted tariffs that were designed to elicit responses. He got the responses that he needed to from countries, especially from China, but also from Mexico and from other countries as well. What I learned, and the reason I take the mulligan, is because we'd never seen the type of the usage of tariffs the way that Trump did when he was president in his first term. And Lord willing, we will be able to see an even better series of examples in his second term. But they are, of course, using it against him, they being the Democrats and the never Trumpers. They are using, it's funny because they're using the arguments that I used to use, some of them, not all of them, but some of the arguments that I and other free market capitalists used to use when we were opposing tariffs. I'm still a free market capitalist, and I still oppose the general use of tariffs. But again, if they're done properly, if they're targeted, if they are designed to elicit a response and not necessarily as just straight punitive, then yeah, like I said, just like the dad in Dirty Dancing, when I'm wrong, I say I'm wrong. Nobody puts baby in a corner. It's an article over at the National Pulse that breaks it down very well. Not perfect, but very well. William Upton over at the National Pulse says Trump's tariff critics claim he'll increase prices. Here's why they're wrong, and they are wrong, to be clear. President Donald J. Trump's ambitious plan to use broad and targeted tariffs to protect and restore American industry is drawing bizarre counter-arguments from his opponents, both in the Never Trump camp and among Democrats. Trump announced a plan that could see tariffs of upwards of 20% placed on imported goods into the U.S. earlier this week, with higher tariffs reserved to deal with specific industries. Critics of Trump's tariffs plan are raising a wide range of objections, many of which are nonsensical upon closer inspection. The National Pulse has put together a brief overview of why nations use tariffs, their history, and how Trump's critics get the monetary and fiscal impact of tariffs very wrong. So let's start. What is a tariff? At its most basic level, a tariff is just a form of taxation, but one that has specific impacts on a country's imports and exports. The most common form of tariff is the protective tariff, which aims to either insulate or stabilize a crucial domestic industry in a given country from foreign competition. Tariffs can take the form of a fixed tax rate on imported or exported goods, meaning a constant set sum of percentages, or they can be applied to a variable rate that fluctuates with the tariff's target values. Broad or blanket tariffs are less common than industry or product-specific tariffs. However, they are still used by governments, especially against foreign nations that engage in unfair trade practices such as currency manipulation. And keep that one in mind, because we are seeing that in many countries, including, of course. And the goal of a tariff is to dissuade the consumption of a foreign good instead of an identical or similar domestic good. Pushing consumption towards domestic products boosts the economy, eases foreign competition pressures, and lowers a nation's trade deficit. Additionally, tariffs are tools used to punish countries that engage in dumping, which means flooding foreign markets with artificially underpriced goods, often achieved through heavy state subsidies to weaken or wipe out a rival nation's domestic industry. We are seeing that hardcore in the automotive industry, and we have been for decades. Do tariffs work? Tariffs are one of many trade tools a nation uses to tilt international markets in their favor. In short, they do work and can benefit a nation dramatically. However, that is not to say that there aren't drawbacks. Pay attention. For most of its history, the United States has maintained a wide range of tariffs as a matter of policy to promote and protect critical domestic industries. Prior to the ratification of the U.S. Constitution and the granting of taxing authority to Congress, tariffs were pretty much the only way the federal government could raise revenue. Tariffs also comprised a cornerstone of Alexander Hamilton's economic blueprint as the U.S.'s first Secretary of the Treasury. Throughout the 19th century, tariffs were common in the U.S., helping to fuel the growth of American industry. Congress often instituted tariff measures in response to the dumping of foreign goods, such as when the British began flooding the U.S. markets with imports following the War of 1812. However, the use of tariffs fell out of favor following the Smoot-Hawley Tariff Act of 1930 and the Great Depression, as many saw the law as exacerbating the economic depression's effects. Post-Great Depression and throughout the remainder of the 20th century, import and export taxes remained relatively low. Populists and nationalists point to this period as one in which American jobs, accurately, began to shift overseas, especially following President Richard Nixon's decision to lift foreign capital controls. Okay. Let's pause right there. Tariffs got a very bad rap from an absolutist perspective. Okay. What ended up happening was we saw what tariffs could do in the early days. And free market economists said, you know what? Now that we're in this global economy, now that it's not just a matter of, you're not having to worry about the Royal Indian Tea Company or whatever, taking control of entire nations. Now we can actually use just the free market itself and our prowess, our strength of the U.S. economy as a consumer nation to basically influence other nations. In other words, we want to be who they pander to. That was the goal. That was the desire. This was one of the reasons that so many, including me, were against tariffs for the latter part of the 20th century and even into the 21st century. What I got wrong is that, and I would say many people got wrong, and many are still getting it wrong today, is the notion that if you impose a tariff, that the cost goes to the consumer. Okay. And while that is true in certain circumstances, very rarely, by the way, and usually only when there is only like, for example, if we had tariffs on iPhones, would iPhone prices go up? Yes, they would. Okay, they would, but here's the thing: the price is already up there anyway, so maybe they wouldn't. Who knows? But the point is that there are certain products where it won't work. There are the vast majority of products and services and resources, it would work just fine. And it has worked, and this is what Trump taught us. So back to the article. Are tariffs inflationary? The latest argument posited by critics of Donald Trump's tariff plan is to harness inflationary fears among Americans in an attempt to falsely convince them that tariffs will make matters worse. Social media has been flooded with claims that the Trump tariff plan will only exacerbate inflation, with corporate media talking heads repeating the assertion as well. The claims are not remotely correct, however. As noted above, tariffs are, in essence, taxes. Taxation is inherently deflationary, as it either removes dollars from the U.S. monetary supply or creates demand destruction by directly suppressing the demand for a good. By removing dollars from circulation through the forms of taxation like income taxes, the upward pressures on prices created by an increasing monetary supply is reduced. Meanwhile, taxes like a consumption-based sales tax or tariff increase the cost for a consumer or producer, reducing demand. In the latter instance, think of tax on cigarettes. By taxing the sale at a high rate, the long-term goal of lawmakers is to reduce consumption. It is important to note that there are instances where producers choose to absorb the increased cost of production caused by a tariff instead of passing it on to a consumer, especially in the context of maintaining market competitiveness. While a tariff might appear to be inflationary in the very short term, it can raise prices. But in the long term, the encouragement of domestic investment, stabilizing production capacity, and sustainable consumption all reduce inflation and strengthen American industries. Lastly, the claims that tariffs are inflationary fall absolutely flat on their face when one simply looks at the most infamous tariff policy in American history, Smoot-Hawley. Enacted in 1930, some contend the tariff exacerbated the Great Depression by setting off a cascade of retaliatory foreign tariffs against the U.S., cratering domestic and foreign consumption and throwing the country into a deflationary cycle. While the timing of the Tariff Act likely contributed to some negative impacts, many economists now agree that Smoot-Hawley's contribution to the deflationary crisis that kicked off the Depression is significantly overblown. Here's where it comes down to: evening the field. But therein lies the problem with critics of Trump's tariff plan. It cannot be both inflationary and deflationary. And historically, tariffs are deflationary. While there is always a risk of retaliatory tariffs, the U.S. currently has relatively minimal tariff stances against foreign nations. Meanwhile, countries like Japan, Mexico, and Germany already use tariff policy to tilt their auto manufacturing industry in their favor, with little resistance from the American government. Imposing higher tariffs on automobile imports from these countries would merely level the playing field for U.S. manufacturers. Are you paying attention in Michigan? Finally, there's the issue of China. While the communist state does engage in forms of tariff protectionism, its greatest weapon is currency manipulation. Using purchases and sales of U.S. treasuries, the communist regime purposefully deflates their currency to ensure that domestic Chinese manufacturing costs remain artificially extremely low. This both encourages foreign investments in Chinese industry and drives multinational corporations to outsource their workforce to China. Broad-based tariffs on Chinese goods are, in short, the only way to combat just how radically the communist regime has tilted international trade in its favor. And it is it's funny because I'll admit I hadn't read the article all the way down, but it's funny that he brought up both of the 2 points that I consider to be the most important arguments in favor of targeted tariffs and broad tariffs when it comes to China. You have China's currency manipulation, that the only thing that we can do is either stop buying from them or tariffs. That's it. And we're not going to stop buying from them. Okay. Y'all love your iPhones too much. And of course, the automotive industry, which I'm very, very embedded in and know very much about, this has always been a problem. This has been a problem from the beginning. Very sad stuff. Very sad stuff. I'm going to, if you're watching on Frank's Speech, I will bid you adieu. I will see you tomorrow, and we will talk about some more amazing stuff, and God bless you so much. If you are watching, if you're watching at jdrucker.com/rumble, then just stay tuned. We're going to take a quick break, and when we get back, we're going to get into some more strategy, so stay tuned. For the last, 4 years, coincidentally lining up with the Biden-Harris regime, for the last 4 years, it has made sense to a whole bunch of Americans to move their wealth or their retirement over to physical precious metals. This is a good thing. Okay, and I'm not a financial advisor. I'm not giving you financial advice. I'm just telling you that it's happening. A lot of Americans are doing it, and they know why they're doing it. Between de-dollarization, inflation, the potential for recession, everything that's going on, the turmoil that's going to come with the presidential election, regardless of who wins, by the way. There's going to be economic turmoil before, during, and after the election. We know this. This is coming. So a lot of people are trying to find the higher ground of physical precious metals. The challenge there is that not all gold companies are made the same. Look, I know that you might seem like they are. It seems like, everybody's got their conservative commentators that promote them. The difference between me and these other conservative commentators and show hosts and whatever is that I actually did my research. And unfortunately, I've come to the conclusion that the other ones could not have, because if they did, many of them, not 100%, but a lot of them, if they did their research, if they knew exactly what they were promoting, there was no way they would touch these companies with a 10-foot pole. A lot of these companies are promoting their gold and silver, but they're doing so at huge markups. I mean, we're talking sometimes over 100% markup on the gold and silver they're putting into gold IRAs. I work with a faith-driven company, Genesis Gold Group, and they do not charge enormous premiums on top of the gold in order to get you your $10,000 in free silver or whatever gimmick is being pushed. They just deal with you directly, honestly, from a faith-driven perspective. This is the only company I've ever seen in the industry that actually will sit there and pray with you. So check them out. See if they can help you. Go to rumblegold.com, and see what Genesis Gold Group can do for you today. As I noted yesterday, we are going to try to include more videos in my show. It's something that I didn't realize this because I don't watch enough of other people. I sort of just do my own thing. But apparently a lot of show hosts out there, they just do video after video after video and react to it. And it's not my favorite thing to do, but you guys seem to like it. The response so far has been phenomenal. It's like, play a video, talk about it. Play a video, talk about it, or vice versa. Usually I talk about a video and then I play it, and then I leave it up to you guys to determine if I was right or wrong or indifferent, whatever. So, I made that announcement, and then today I went through the first hour, and I don't think I played a single video, which is unfortunate. But we're going to correct that for this extended portion of the J.D. Rucker Show. I have a video here. There is no contempt that a human being could feel for another group of human beings more so than the Democrat Party's contempt for their own voters. We've seen some very cringe, just uncomfortable moments of Democrat, especially Democrat candidates or people associated with those candidates, just absolutely talking down to their audience. We've seen it from Kamala Harris herself. We used to see it all the time from crooked Hillary. Barack Obama was a master at it, but I think all three of them have been put to shame by the absolute, nobody will treat an audience more childlike and more stupidly than Gwen Walls. Yes, that is Tampon Tim's wife. She really truly believes that if you're a Democrat voter and if you're at one of her husband's rallies or Kamala's rallies or anything like that, then you're stupid and you need to be talked to like you're stupid. Watch.
Are you ready? Let's hear it loud and clear like we said. Mr. Trump, Mr. Vance, please mind your own business. Oh, that was excellent.
I got nothing. Jeez. This woman, can you imagine her in the spotlight? You thought Dr. Taco Jill was bad? Wow. She's going to be horrible if, God forbid, if they are successfully installed into the White House. If you need any other reason to get your butt out there and make sure that Donald Trump wins, keeping Gwen Walls out of the vice president's office, that should be a top priority. Speaking of top priorities, that's right. Speaking of top priorities, yesterday I did a video and I put it out over at thelibertydaily.com, but I cut it from the show. It was a video about Patrick Bet-David and what he was saying as far as what's going to happen to the economy if Kamala Harris wins, right? And it was great in everything, but then I ended up talking about one of my sponsors, okay, Genesis Gold Group, and as a result, I thought, you know what, I have my promos, and when I'm talking about news, I hate to bring it up, but then the response was phenomenal. I mean, people were like, "Yeah," it's like I actually got lots of replies, and it was okay, well. And then I rewatched it, and then it's like you only mentioned the RumbleGold.com once. This wasn't like an ad. Just play it. So this is from yesterday. I'll play this, and then yeah. I should have played it yesterday. But you'll get to see. This is good though because you'll get to see. I did that, and then I got my hair cut, so you can see the difference between my hair. Does it better now, or was it better yesterday? You tell me. I said for a long time that if Donald Trump is able to win the 2024 election, that it will have a whole lot of positive effects on the economy, including on gold and silver prices. During his first term, gold and silver skyrocketed, right? Up to like 50-something%. It is not out of the question, considering the state of the economy that he's inheriting. It is definitely not out of the question to imagine gold going up to $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 an ounce. I'm not making a prediction. This is just, it wouldn't surprise me. I'm not a financial advisor. But it also wouldn't surprise me if silver went up to 40, 50, 60 bucks an ounce, maybe more. And actually, a lot of people are saying that silver would be affected even more so than gold. But what if, God forbid, what if the opposite happens? What if Kamala Harris wins? I'm going to turn to Patrick Bet-David. He's not going to talk about gold and silver, but he is going to talk about the antithesis of gold and silver, the stock market. What happens in the event of again, God forbid, but what if Kamala wins? What does that look like?
And now they want to come out and talk about a $4 trillion tax increase that they're going to be imposing, saying, yeah, if you're making less than $400K, you have nothing to worry about. They want to tax unrealized gains of billionaires because they have money with people over $100 million. Let's just say you do that with 25%. You know what the business owner is going to do? You know what the billionaire is going to do? They're going to say, hey, let go of 25% of employees. We got to fire a bunch of other people. Next thing you know, market tanks. And then think about the 62-year-old person, 64-year-old person who's got $750,000 in their 401k, thinking about retiring. What if that 750 goes like this to 375 because of market tanks due to bad policies with Kamala? That 64-year-old person that was about to retire in a year has to work till 75 years old. That's what bad policies do. They have bad consequences, and her policies carries no weight with anybody today.
And the market is the only thing keeping Biden-Harris afloat right now. If that goes, which it would under her tutelage, everybody gets hammered, and it's just an absolute catastrophe.
Well, there you go. According to Patrick Bet-David, and of course, you got Jesse Waters sort of reiterating, but according to Patrick Bet-David, a Kamala Harris regime would decimate the stock market, decimate retirement accounts. So, technically speaking, and this is not a sponsored segment, we're talking news here. I wanted to play that video, but it does make sense if you are in that 62, 64, 70, 55, whatever range. If you are an older American and you're listening to me, you're listening to Patrick Bet David, you're trying to read the tea leaves, seeing what's going on, it does make sense to consider moving wealth and retirement over to physical precious metals. I do have a sponsor, just as everybody else does, but mine is an America First, faith-driven sponsor that doesn't rip people off. So there's that. I, of course, I work with Genesis Gold Group. You can reach out to them and get their free, definitive, exclusive 2025 gold guide by going to rumblegold.com. That's rumblegold.com. It's scary right now. I mean, the entire economic situation is scary. And it's not just, Trump's going to come in and save us or Kamala's going to kill us. There are scary things with a Trump victory as well. And not so much from Trump himself. I'm not concerned about his policies. I'm more concerned about reactions, global reactions to his presidency. Okay, they definitely want central bank digital currencies, so they definitely need America to be weakened, and they're definitely going to try to do things that are going to try to weaken us. You've got the whole BRICS thing. They're not going to be very happy. Okay, this de-dollarization is going to accelerate. BRICS is not going to be happy with a Trump presidency. They're going to try to do things. First, they're already trying to do things to stop him, but then if he does get back into the Oval Office, they're going to try to do things to subvert him. Then, of course, there's the concept of just mass turmoil. We can't put it past our opposites, the opposition. We cannot put it past them that they wouldn't try to burn the country down just to make themselves feel like they were right. Okay, breaking infrastructure, breaking the grid, breaking the financial systems. And if you think, they're just a bunch of kids, what can they do? They're a bunch of kids that also have a bunch of adults that also have a bunch of Soros money and a bunch of other bad guys funding them. Don't downplay them. I'm not trying to be a fearmonger here. I'm not saying, oh my gosh, go buy a bunker in Montana and hide out. It's, the sky is falling. The sky is falling. I am not Chicken Little. I'm just saying it behooves us all to get ready and to start making smart decisions financially, smart decisions when it comes to our health, smart decisions about where we're living, what we're doing, our professions, and most importantly, smart decisions about our faith, focusing in on our faith above all else. Above all else. All right, here's a topic that doesn't get talked about by nearly enough people. We've talked about it, obviously. Some of my favorite show hosts and blogs, they talk about it profusely. It's about the 320,000 children that have gone missing under Border Czar Kamala Harris. These are, of course, illegal alien children who've come across. And I would argue two things. Number one, it's a lot more than 320,000. That's what we know about. Okay, but it's more than 320,000. The ones that we don't hear about, I weep for it. And here's not to get too conspiratorial. This is the second part of it. I don't want to get too conspiratorial because this is truly an election issue that should be brought up as part of, I said before, the Trump campaign and many of their surrogates should focus on the economy and the border invasion. Economy and border invasion. Obviously, this has a lot to do with the border invasion because we're talking about children that are just gone. Okay, they're just not there. Nobody knows where they are. So, but then there's the conspiratorial aspect of it, and I can't not mention it to you, my wonderful audience. I would argue that a lot of these children, maybe most of them, maybe nearly all of them, they do know exactly where they are. And that should terrify you. That should enrage you, because that falls into the category of, oh my gosh, what is happening to these children? And I have made the argument myself, again, not based upon necessarily evidence, but based upon just piecing together circumstance, rumor, this, that, or the other, that the border invasion, the reason for it isn't just to try to hurt the American economy or to advance cultural Marxism or to establish the Great Replacement or any of these various things, which are all correct, to be clear, but there's a bigger reason, and this would be to take advantage of the most hideous things that you can think of, and I'm not asking you to think of them. Don't, because it takes you to a dark place. But the most hideous usage of children possible. This is a supply. I mean, it makes me very mad to just even mention it. I didn't do anything. I know you all didn't do anything. It is the deep state, it is the global elite cabal, it is the uniparty swamp, it's Hollywood, it's all of the various evil players in power here in the United States of America and abroad, and their use of these children, these children that have there's no tracing them at all. Anyway, back to the campaign aspect of it. Let's turn to great Congresswoman Anna Paulina Luna, as she highlighted it at I believe this is North Carolina. North Carolina rally over the weekend for Donald J. Trump.
Real quick, because the left media likes to say women don't support President Trump and border security. How many women are here? Please make noise. When I pressed Kamala Harris on the trafficking and rape of Hispanic women and children, do you know what she did? She ran away. She ran away from the very questions that she is trying to campaign on currently as the solution to the problem that she created. She has done nothing. Nothing for the innocent children lost under her supervision. 320,000 children have gone missing under her watch as border czar. Don't tell me you care about women, and do not tell me you care about children, because the fact is you used your position as a woman minority and did nothing for us.
You know, she brings up an excellent point that I didn't mention before. What happens to these women and children on their way up to the border? And we know the answer to that, but we have to talk about it, because apparently not enough people seem to know. There's this notion, especially amongst the left, but even some on the right, that it's compassionate to have open borders. It's compassionate to allow these migrants to come to our borders and to cross over, and for us to give them stuff. Look, these women, especially, and their children, these women and children, they're lied to. They're told, hey, you know what? We'll take you. You pay us like $12,000, $50,000, something, and we'll take you to the border. We'll get you over there. You'll get processed by immigration, and then they'll release you out to the country. They'll take you wherever you want to go. You want to go to California. You want to go to Chicago. You want to go to New York. You want to go to Denver. You want to go wherever you want to go, great. And then they'll give you housing, they'll give you food, they'll give you medicine, they'll take care of you. You'll get a driver's license, you'll get to vote, you get all this. You know, you'll basically, it's like becoming an American citizen without actually becoming an American citizen. Thanks to Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. Just make sure you vote Democrat once they let you vote. And they'll say that you can't vote, but you really can. Don't worry about it. Just trust the people that are there. They'll take care of you. All you got to do is give us all this money, and then just go with these fine gentlemen in the cartel, and they'll make sure that you get up there safely. And of course, that's not what happens. That's not what happens. These women and these children are brutalized along the way. Some of them walking like 3,000 miles, brutalized along the way. Rape trees along the way. I mean, they're broken by the time they get here. And you could see it in their eyes, especially once they realize, oh my gosh. So I'm having to like live in the slums. I'm not being given everything. As much as we say, oh, we give them everything, you know, they're like, my gosh, my life here on the streets of New York is far worse than it was even in Venezuela or wherever. Or they go and they're like, oh, great, you know, I finally got to escape the Venezuelan gangs. Oh, you're taking me to Aurora. Okay, great, awesome. Wait, who runs this town? Oh, the Venezuelan gangs. What the hell? Why did I just walk 3,000 miles, raped along the way, brutalized along the way, and now I'm here, and this sucks? But they don't care. The Democrats don't care. Kamala Harris doesn't care. Nancy Pelosi doesn't care. Hakeem Jeffries doesn't care. As long as they get another ballot. All they want is the ballot. A ballot that they control. That's it. And they want the children. They want the children they can then do God knows what with. These are evil human beings. And they're pretending to be good. You know, I was going to do a full 2 hours. I am not. I'm not going to do a full 2 hours. I am going to go cool off because there's so much at stake, folks. This isn't just about, oh, we got an economy to save. Oh, we've got to protect our Second Amendment rights. Oh, we've got to close the borders. I would argue that this election, and I hate politics to be clear. I would much rather be talking about faith. I'd much rather be fighting the culture war. But I'm stuck, at least for the next few months, maybe longer, talking about the politics of it all. And I hate it, but it's necessary. Because if we lose this election, it is the end of the United States. And listen, if that happens, then we will know. We will know beyond a shadow of a doubt that that's what God has planned for us as a nation. Corporately, we are going to be punished. And we deserve it. Let's be clear. I mean, we didn't fight this the way that we should have fought it. We became complacent. We became the consumers. We did not spread the gospel the way that we were supposed to. And when I say we, maybe you did, but I know I didn't. Okay? I did not do nearly enough. I did not read my Bible nearly enough. I did not pray nearly enough. I did not fast. I did not go and make disciples of the nations. I didn't do that enough. And so in this world, maybe it's going to be the case. I don't know if we're going to get punished. I mean, I know eventually we will. We'll all be judged, right? But as far as politically speaking, as far as the future of the United States, I do not know. I don't know what the future holds. But I do know this, that if we can win the election, maybe that's because we have been granted a reprieve, an opportunity to correct the situation. And if we don't win the election, then I would say that's curtains for the United States of America. And I don't say that lightly. I don't say that, oh, well, we gave it our best shot. That would suck. I love this country. I love this country. So I'm going to end the show right there. Lord willing, I will be back very soon with another episode. But in the meantime, you all stay strong, stay safe, and God bless. Do you have any aches and pains? Chronic inflammation might be the culprit. Meet Sweetamine, the natural way to fight inflammation. Sweetamine is packed with the amino acid glycine, the same nutrient found in bone broth that helps to regulate inflammation. Many of the diseases we face today are rooted in glycine deficiency. Just one daily serving of Sweetamine provides 8 grams of glycine, enough to stop excess inflammation right where it starts. Most people feel pain reduction after just a few days. Perfect for post-workout recovery, Sweetamine is all natural, contains no sugars or carbs, and has only 24 calories. It's ideal for diabetics too. Use it like sugar in your favorite drinks, smoothies, or sprinkled on cereal. Try our 12-day challenge trial pack for only $19.95 with free shipping, completely risk-free. And for a limited time, enter promo code RUCKER at checkout for a $5 discount. Order Sweetamine now at sweetamine.com or call 855-GET-SWEET. That's 855-438-7933. Live pain-free with Sweetamine and take the challenge today. I would say it's definitely best practice in today's world to have a med kit available with you wherever you go, whether it's in your car, or at home. Have a med kit available is good. Except they can get expensive. I know that some of the ones that I've been looking at are very pricey, in the hundreds, sometimes close to $1,000 for a med kit. It's like, hey, I might as well get my doctor's degree. But hey, some of you might want that. For people like me, I want something a little bit more affordable. So I've gotten myself and my family the Sidekick. I've gotten actually multiple because I put them in my car. I keep them at home. They are good. And you can get yours by going to jdrucker.com.